Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
Alright guys, the set's been out for a while. We've had our first patch and the game is already kind of broken. Yikes. You know, it is what it is. The devs are surely hard at work to fix the problem and they'll hopefully do something soon about it. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today because I want to talk to you about one of my absolute favorite comp of the new set. Not because it's top tier of the meta, although being pretty strong regardless, but because I genuinely have a lot of fun playing it on ladder. And a fair amount of success as well. Otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it at all, you know? The comp is obviously, as you can see, NOXUS REROLL. And in this video, we'll be going over the core units to play, the best settings to pick, the best augments to choose, and the best boards to play from early to late game. Alright, let's go. Alright, here we are. So let's talk about the comp a little bit and what units are considered to be core. So, of course, as I already said before, this is a reroll comp. Specifically a level 7 reroll comp, because you're gonna be looking for both Katarina and Darius 3-star. Now, you won't be able to always 3-star both of them every game, but you ideally want to prioritize one of the two depending on some of the conditions that we're going to be talking about later, namely items and also which emblems you can find, because this comp has many viable emblems that are very strong and that really spike your board depending on who your carry is. So of course, the carries are Katarina and Darius. Very strong. If you can hit both 3-star, you are guaranteed top 2, basically. Unless you fumbled something. I don't know. I don't take responsibility for your losses. And, yeah, of course, Katarina's gonna hold your AP items, and Darius is gonna hold your AD items. For tanks, there's not really, like, many hyper tanks like in other comps. Like, there's no, like, Sejuani or, what's the name? Shen's in this comp. Yeah, you can run NOXUS in some specific situations, like when you have a NOXUS pat or when you have a Juggernaut pat. But most of the time, you're just gonna slam your tank items on Swain if you can't use them for anything else, right? NOXUS can be a good tank holder, tank item holder, but usually you're gonna find him later into the game. You're already gonna have Swain 2 or 3, maybe, since you're gonna be really rolling a lot. So, yeah, just depending on how the game goes, you're gonna choose who to put your tank items on. Now, other core units are mostly gonna be stat bots, trait bots, sorry. But they also have some interesting niches that they can cover. For example, Samira, one cost NOXUS challenger, doesn't really have any synergy other than giving us 6 NOXUS, whatever. But what her ability does is that it reduces the armor of a unit for the rest of combat. Okay, you heard that right, for the rest of combat. Which means putting her on the same side as Darius is gonna help him a lot in clearing the first unit to start slam dunking on the whole team, right? Does that make sense? Now, Clad is mostly a trade bot, and that's it, probably. Because he's a NOXUS, he's a Slayer, And as we're gonna see later into the game, not the game, the video, sorry, he's a Slayer, and this comp really synergizes well with Slayers, especially when Katarina has a Slayer's path. So he's needed, he's definitely needed. You won't find many games when you can take him out like at level 8 for Sion, because you want to take out one of your Noxus for Sion, and Clad is usually not going to be one of them. And last but not least, Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is probably one of the most useful one cost in the set, because she has anti-heal on her spell. And so again, if you put her in front of Darius or Katarina, you're gonna help them start their murderous spree. So, you know, pretty good. Now, traits, the only necessary trait that you want in this comp is obviously 6 Noxus, because it gives a lot of stats. And one thing I want to talk about is that the way NOXUS works is that you stack stats by beating other opponents in fight. And for each individual player that you beat, you get extra 10% up to a maximum of 70%. Alright? Which means that if you're not win streaking in the early game, you're going to be much weaker in the mid game, and you're going to have a harder time gaining those stacks. Right? Unless you spike really hard. So keep that in mind. Moving on to best item territory. We're going to have a lot to talk about here. As you can see on the carry side, I did something. It's kind of a mess, but I will be walking you through it. So, if you're playing Twisted Fate, you probably won't care about slamming items for a long time. But in all other cases, remember, best in slot is not always the safe choice. If you need to save HP in the early game, or if you need to win streak, which is very important with this comp. Alright? Slam your items. Suboptimal is fine, as long as it saves you HP. Alright? Just wanted to put it out there, because like some people, me included, are really greedy with your items. Now, let's talk about carry items. Darius and Katarina both want healing items as their core. Like, they really want to be that hyper carry that survives the entire fight, and they look unkillable, and they like deal 1500 damage with a single spell. You know, that kind of stuff. It's kind of funny, honestly, when you're playing it. So both of them want healing items, but in particular, both of them really like Hand of Justice. Hand of Justice right now is probably the best healing item in the game. It's really absurd. It's hilarious how some carries can run away with having 3 Hand of Justices and being their best in slot. I am not joking. There are some stats that indicate that triple Hodge is actually viable. I don't understand how that's possible, but now if you can't have Hodge on both, or if you can't have Hodge on either, you're gonna want a BT for Darius and or a Gunblade on Katarina. Okay, just any healing item is fine. If you can get Hodge, that's best in slot. And it's best in slot for a specific reason that we're gonna talk about right now. Second item, both of them really like critting. So IE is a very good item for Darius and Katarina, actually, if you can find the JG. But if you can find JG, that's her second premier damage item. Alright, does that make sense? Now, JG is not the only available option for Katarina, just like IE is not the only option for Darius. Darius can actually use Giant Slayer very well, because he's gonna focus on the front line first, right? So having that extra damage to cut through the front line is really gonna help him. Also, I did not include it here because I am dumb, but he can use DB pretty well. It's not one of his best items, but if you have some swords to spare, like, you know, those games where you drop 4 BFs and you have no fucking clue what to do with all of those, you can just put 2 on Darius and he's gonna chill for a while. Now, for Katarina, damage items means that she's gonna be able to run Giant Slayer as well. I did not include it because, like, it's not one of her, like, first choices. Mostly because even if she has to kill the frontline first, usually, if you're running 2 Rogue, she's gonna jump in the backline pretty quickly. And actually, even from the frontline, sometimes she can hit the backline pretty reliably. It all depends on how she throws her dagger. I do not know how that's decided, honestly. I do not know how her dagger throw works yet, but we'll figure it out. Now, other damage items that she really likes to run are Rabadon, of course, especially if you have like Jewel Lotus, especially Jewel Lotus 3, because like Jewel Lotus 2 right now kind of sucks. Jewel Lotus 3 is fine just because of like the absurd amount of crit chance that you got. So yeah, Rabadon is also a good choice. Guard Breaker is really good, again, because shields are just everywhere in this set. And not only does it help her cut through the front line, but also in case you're hurt. But also, in case the enemy backline has shields, she's gonna deal a fuck ton more damage. Now, actually, we have a third item now to talk about, of course, but it's kind of flexible, honestly, because like both Hodge and Guardbreaker for Katarina, for example, really synergize well with Jewel Gauntlet, so you can just run all 3 and be fine with it, because you get like a lot of crit chance, which really plays into the strengths of Jewel Gauntlet. Like, you're gonna create a lot more. But usually what you want to put on Katarina is gonna be Ionic Spark. Ionic Spark is really good because it shreds MR around Katarina, around the holder, and not only does it help her kill units faster, it also deals damage on cast based on the enemy's mana, which also helps her kill faster, which is the whole thing Katarina wants to do. She's a damage carrier. What the fuck do you want Katarina to do? Chill enemies? That's not what she does. That's not her role. You could have played Freljord. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, Ionic is very good on her. Like, ideally, best in slot would be Hodge, JG, Ionic, or something like that. But again, as I already said, Hodge, JG, Rabadon is good. Hodge, Gunblade, JG is good, actually. 2 healing items is not terrible. A Hodge, JG, Guardbreaker is good, again. And, as we're gonna see later, Slayer, Spat, plus Hodge and GG, or Hodge and Ionic, or Gunblade and Ionic, and stuff like that, is a very, very good build for Katarina. Now, when it comes to Darius items, actually we don't really have a lot of choices. Titan's Resolve is usually gonna be the best choice, which is also good on Katarina, by the way. I forgot to mention that, but you can build Titans on Kata if you have like bows galore. But yeah, Titans is a very strong item on Darius. It's usually gonna be one of his best in slot. Other items that I did not include here because they're Ornn items and they're less likely to appear, but actually if you're running Ornn as your legend, they're more likely to appear, so I should start doing that from next video. Hull Breaker, or Hull Crasher more specifically, is a very strong item for Darius, because like you give him a bunch of resistances, you give him a bunch of survivability, you give him 600 fucking HP right off rip. He's gonna be a fucking pain in the ass to kill. Yes, it's very good. Now, going on to tank items, I just want to say before we talk about them, tank items this set are kind of fake right now. You'd rather have 2 carries itemized than having a carry and a frontliner itemized. That's so weird. I'm not used to this. But in case you really need to slam tank items, these are probably the best ones. We cannot talk about BIS when it comes to tanks, so we have like a tier list setting kind of style of, yeah. So, starting from S tier, Gargoyle and Warmog are probably the most important right now, especially if you're running Swain. Swain, when he casts, gains extra HP, so he's really gonna have like a lot of HP, which means resistances are more effective on him. Why is that? This concept is called the effective HP. I've talked about this multiple times. If you've seen already one of my videos, which is only one, I only have one video on the channel. If you've seen last video, you know that the more resistances you have, the more your HP are valuable. Because cutting through 1000 HP with 40 MR and resistance and armor is gonna be easier than cutting through 1000 HP of a unit that has 100 MR and armor. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I'm not gonna say it again. Now, Warmog is just very strong in general. Is very solid. 1000. Is it 1000? Is it 800? I don't remember. But like, it gives you a fuck ton of HP. You don't really have any other uses for your belts. So if you get double belt and you're not planning on stacking Zeeks, you can just slap a Warmog on your main tank and you're gonna call it a day. Now, moving on to A tier. These are all pretty viable items. They're not the best, but obviously they're gonna work just fine. If you find a tank item within one of these in the early game, you can just slam it on your tank and you're gonna be chilling. Sunfire Cape, as usual, useful because it cuts down healing, especially like in a mirror match. Because if you can cut down Darius's healing, it's gonna be way easier to kill him. But not only that, like in this set in general, there's a lot of healing. Like Aphelios has built-in healing for his kit. There's a lot of augments that provide like lifesteal and such. Yasuo is really heavy on healing, you know. It's pretty useful. Sunfire is always useful. It's not like really high priority right now, but he's fine. It's fine. It's really solid as usual. Now Declaw right now, actually I just realized that putting it in A tier might be a mistake, because the meta right now is mostly AD not reliant, that's not the word. It's mostly AD. So you don't really need the extra MR, and over time healing that it provides is not really enough to justify slapping 2 cloaks on your tank and just like wasting an item slot, you know. So yeah, be wary of building Declaw in the early game. Just if you're scouting and you see a lot of people are going like, I don't know, Azir or I don't know, Timo reroll, Valkos reroll, 6 sorcerers, stuff like that, you might want to slam a Declaw. Otherwise, I'd suggest against it. Now, Protector's Vow is, as usual, a very solid option. It gives you armor, which is the better resistance as of right now in the meta. It gives you starting mana, which on tanks is really important, because the sooner they cast it, the easier it's gonna be for them to tank. And it gives you extra resistances and a shield when they get low HP. So like, it's a whole lot of stuff. It's a lot of resistances, you know? It's pretty good. Moving on to the next item, Bramble Vest is really strong. Not only gives you a lot of armor, but it also cuts down the extra damage from crits, which is usually what carries like to run. So having it is really gonna help your tank survive more. Redemption is also a very strong item because it uses belts, which are not really included in our carry items. So we're gonna have a lot of belts to like get rid of. And Redemption really helps you because it cuts down the damage from AoE effects. Stuff like Kai'Sa's ult, stuff like Azeri's pew pew little zaps, you know. Stuff like the Aphelios cast, you know, when he throws his ult, basically. So yeah, Redemption is always pretty decent. It's AoE healing, it's AoE damage reduction for AoE spells. Oh my god, what a mouthful. So yeah, it's usually very strong. Zizirot apparently does not have a very good win rate on this comp, and I can understand why, because most of your comp is gonna be on the front line, so you don't really need extra front line for your front line, right? Does that make sense? Like you already don't really want a lot of tank items, let alone having Zizirot. You know, like you don't need anyone to taunt for your team. It can be situationally good, just in case, I don't know, you need to kill a belt or a bow. You don't really use many of either for your carries. Or maybe there's a big, bad, scary carry in the enemy team. Sorry for the wordplay. And you really don't want them to focus your Darius or your Katarina first, so you just lap a Z0 on one of your other units so that they can buy time for your carry to actually start killing people in game. Now, moving on to the augment section of the video, I'm gonna try to keep it short, but I can't promise you anything. I get very talkative when it comes to augments. Hopefully, since there's no hero augments this time, we can like get through this pretty fast. Let's go. Silver augments. Army building. Very strong. It's gonna help you hit your 3 stars, which are your win conditions basically. So yeah, it's basically through 2 free units. Like 3 starting a unit is gonna cost you 7 units and not 9. Pretty solid. Cybernetic Leech and Harm Assist, both useful because they give your units extra lifesteal. Both Darius and Katarina really like lifesteal, so they're pretty useful. Unified Resistance, it's one of the best augments right now, especially for silver tier. Pretty solid, gives your team extra resistances if you're putting at least 3 units in the same line, you know? So both Katarina and Darius really need survivability, so they're gonna be very happy having extra resistances. Young, Wild, and Free, this augment really needs to be talked about. Now, Young, Wild, and Free is very strong because it basically ensures that you're gonna have Carousel Prio. Sorry. Now, why is this good and why should you pick it only if you're sure that you're gonna win streak? If you're gonna lose streak, right, in the early game, you're most likely gonna be first pick, right, in the carousel. So you don't really need to ensure carousel priority when you're going for lose streak. But since we're playing NOXUS, as I already said, win streaking in the early game is gonna be really beneficial to us. Also having Young, Wild, and Free is really gonna secure a strong advantage for us. Because not only we have a lot of HP, not only we have a lot of econ, but we also have carousel priority. Like, it's one in your cake and eating it too, you know? It's just the whole package, right? You're not giving up anything. It's very strong. Now, you could argue that picking Young, Wild, and Free means you're playing down a combat augment. But in my opinion, since it's a silver tier augment, most silver tier augments are not really that impactful. Now, in the early game, yes, they are impactful. But if you have a very strong position, a silver augment is not going to make a difference most of the time. Most of the time. Not always, most of the time. You know? Now, gold augments. This augment right here, I don't remember the name. Is it Total Domination? I think it's Total Domination. This thing is busted. Busted, I'm telling you, it's disgusting. Okay, what it does is it lets your NOXUS units execute the enemies when they're below 6% HP or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers. I'm just gonna spit out numbers and then you're gonna fact check me. I don't care. Now, it means that Darius is gonna have a much easier time executing his enemies. That means Katarina is gonna fucking demolish a whole chunk of the enemy team. Do you understand that? I hope you do. Now, next augment. NOXUS Emblem, pretty strong, pretty solid. It helps you cut out some of the shitters, as they are known, from your late game units. Namely, Samira. You don't really want to see Mira later in the game. NOXUS Emblem is also pretty good on Azir. Apparently, Azir NOXUS is a pretty good unit. Next, Know Your Enemy is pretty strong because after you cast the first time, it's gonna give you extra 25% damage. I don't remember. But like, since Darius is gonna like keep executing people after his first kill, Know Your Enemy is gonna help him get the second one as well to like keep going, you know, to keep the streak going. Now again, Leech and Harm Assist pretty good, yada yada, we already talked about them. Tons of stats. Now, I don't understand how this augment is this good, but it averages like a 3.9, 3.8. Let me just check real quick on the stats, because like it's really strong. Where is it? Tons. Okay, no, it averages a 4.11 right now, but like it's still pretty damn solid. Still pretty damn solid, you know? So yeah, tons of stats is just like usually a very solid pick. Like you'll always want tons of stats if you can have it. Now between total domination and tons of stats, of course you want total domination, but like in any other cases, you're usually gonna have tons of stats. Next augment, another broken augment, Idealism. Idealism is so stupid. All of your units that hold a Hodge are gonna deal 18% extra damage and gain an Hodge. Alright, do you see where I'm going with this? Both of your carries really like Hodge in this comp, right? So you're gonna build one, and then you're gonna get offered Idealism, and then you're gonna probably do some very weird noises with your mouth because you're very happy. Let's just put it at that. And you're gonna have Hodge on both your carries, and both your carries are gonna deal 18% plus extra damage. It sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds good to me. So, you know, pretty solid, pretty good. Last gold augment is a gift from the Fallen. It gives you less stats than tons of stats, but every time one of your units dies, all the other units gain the same buff again. It's like if you played set 3 or set 6. Do you remember Dark Star in set 3 and Mutants in set 6? Which had one of the mutations be when your units die, like give X stats to all of your other units. Yeah. Considering you're playing for hyper carries, your Darius and or your Katarina are usually gonna be the last units to survive in the fight. If they're not, you're gonna lose anyway. But if they're the last ones, usually in the board, with the extra stats, they're gonna be much stronger. They're gonna be more likely to like 1v9 clutch the round, you know. Now, prismatic augments. There's not many to talk about, but there's some that I want to talk about. NOXUS crown, as usual, pretty strong. I don't remember the item it gives, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty good. Like if I'm not wrong, it gives you an infinity edge. It does give you an infinity edge and a Darius. So like, you know, it's the Darius reroll starter pack. Like, what else do you want? Juggernaut emblem is Juggernaut crown is also pretty good because it gives you a Titan's resolve and a Darius. So again, Darius reroll starter pack. It's just that. Now, think fast is usually in the reroll comps is very strong. It helps you secure your three cost 3 stars. Now, I would not pick this too early because you don't really care about your 2 cost or 1 cost 3 stars, right? But if you have a lot of money and you're on, I don't know, 4-2, can you even pick think fast in 4-2? Hold on, I'm just gonna check in real time with you. Yes, you can. So if you pick it at 3-2 or 4-1 or 4-2 and you have a lot of gold and you're level 7, by all means, go ahead. It's gonna secure an early 3 cost 3 star, and it's gonna win streak you a lot, pretty much. Now, Harem Assist and Leech, again, very strong. We already talked about them. Jewel Lotus 3, in my opinion, is the only Jewel Lotus that like is worth picking, because Jewel Lotus 2, the gold one, is terrible. It gives you 10% crit chance on the board. It's not really that good right now. They should probably buff it. I think 15% is already gonna be like good enough, because like when it was at 20%, I think it was 20% when it was in last set, it was like one of the strongest augments, so they wanted to like rebalance it out, which is fair. But Jewel Lotus 3 gives you 45% crit chance to your whole board, and since both your carries are probably gonna have a lot of crit, you do want more crit chance. You really do. Last but not least, Gold Ticket. Sorry, I forgot the name. Gold Ticket, as usual, reroll comps like it. Non-reroll comps also like it. It's a pretty solid augment, honestly. Like, having that many extra free rolls is pretty good. Like, they're not guaranteed, but the chance is pretty high. So, like, you end up saving quite a lot of money when rolling. Alright, here we are, everyone's favorite part of the video. What boards do I play from early to late game? How do I survive playing NOXUS? Now, There's actually a lot of variations when it comes to late game Noxus, especially revolving around what emblems you hit and what carry you're running. And we'll be going over them bit by bit, but first, let's see how to get safely to the end game. Now, for the early game boards, there's a few options that we have. Of course, we have a Shurima opener with Noxus. Having Cassio be both Shurima and Noxus really enables us to put in that extra Shurima healing on our board and hopefully buff our Cassio that is gonna carry us throughout the early game. If we want, we can also like start slamming items on her that she's gonna hold for Katarina. That is fine, as long as you can like remake her, or if you know that you're not gonna run Cassio in the late game, you know, like you can just like start slapping AP items on her. It's not a problem. Even Talia actually can hold them. It's not really that bad. At level 6, you could put a Teemo if you don't have your 6 Noxuses yet. Another strong board apparently that really works surprisingly well is 5 Noxus, because apparently you just like get all of the stats possible from your Noxus trait, and all your units are gonna be stronger as a result. Now, ideally, when you get to level 6, you should have all 6 Noxus, because the gap between the stats is pretty big. It's almost double, which is a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, ideally your level 6 board is gonna look something like this. By now you should know more or less what direction to have with your items if you wanna prioritize Katarina or Darius first. Oh my god, Darius disappeared. I'm so sorry. There we go. And this is gonna be your level 6 board. At level 7, now you have a choice. You can play into Slayers if you found a Slayer emblem, or you can just run it for the rogue value, you know, to get Katarina into the enemy backline. Katarina has kind of a hard time with the rogue trait, because like she throws the daggers and then her passive procs and she goes into the backline, but she jumps back on the daggers, so she's back to the front line for some reason. It's kind of weird, admittedly, but that one time where she goes back before casting, it's really satisfying. It's really good. Just a little bit inconsistent. You can tech into the strategist if you find a Jarvan. Like, you would run a Jarvan even if he had no traits active right now, because like he's that strong of a unit. It's like 2 seconds AoE stun in the backline. It's huge. It's disgusting, honestly. They're probably gonna nerf him, but as long as they don't nerf him, you know, abuse him. And you get the shield on the front line, which really helps our carries survive. Sorry, not Swain, these two. You can also tech into Juggernaut with Nasus, for example. He cuts down resistances, so you can put it here, or like, hold on, let me just reposition a little bit better so that our carries don't get focused immediately. What Nasus does is he steals stats from enemies surrounding him for 8 seconds, which means also armor and magic resist. Sorry, it's gonna be 5 armor and MR, which is like not huge, but it still helps, you know. All the help we can get to get Darius going, or Katarina, you know. And now at level 8, or when you start getting emblems, is where things get interesting. Alright, let's go. First variation. Slayers. If you get a Slayer's Pat, Katarina with a Slayer's Pat does a fuck ton of damage. Like, this bad girl is gonna wipe out a whole section of the enemy board, but just by existing. She throws her daggers, she runs around, 1500 hit per dagger, and anything around her is dead. Right? Does that make sense? And that's not all. If you manage to get this, this looks stupid. It's not. It's not. For every Slayer you have, it's extra 10%, which doubles for enemies below 60% HP. It's actually stupid. It's actually stupid. Let me check how good 5 Slayer is with 6 Noxus real quick, just like give you an idea. It's 3.29. 3.29 average placement. Okay. If you have Katarina 3, it's 2.31. Okay, we're gonna lose these stats eventually, but you know, as long as we do have them, I like numbers. I'm a nerd. So yeah, Slayer, Darius, and Katarina good. Thumbs up. Also, like, you know, if you can run Aatrox with like the extra Juggernaut, I'm pretty sure if you can't find Aatrox, you might be fine just running this guy or even just this girl. When it's not ideal in general, she's not a very strong unit right now. She's fine, I guess, but you'd rather run any other for cost carry, honestly. But if you can hit this is incredibly strong. This is a very strong board. Next, the Shurima angle. Now, the Shurima angle really wants to tech into Darius more than Katarina, because like you have Juggernaut that you would not have in the 5 Slayer without the Aatrox, of course. But the Shurima angle is actually pretty solid, as we've seen before, because you have Azir, which gives your whole team strategist, which is a pretty strong trait right now. You have NOXUS that really synergizes with Katarina and with Darius. And you have Shurima, so you have like extra healing on your Shurima units, and you have some extra damage because your Azir is probably gonna send. Now, if you can get a NOXUS emblem, you thought we were not gonna talk about emblems. Well, too bad. If you can get a NOXUS emblem, you could even think of itemizing your fucking Azir. Where the hell is the Guinsu? There we go. And I don't know, Static Shiv. No, not Shojin. Static Shiv, I guess. Rabadon, Hajj, you name it. You name it. If you can get 3 Hajj with Idealism, this is gonna be very stupid. And then you're gonna cut out the Kled, and you're gonna run this guy. You're chilling. Like, you're so strong. What the fuck are we talking about? You know, you can run Jarvan in your board. It's over. It's over. But jokes aside, Azir NOXUS is actually a pretty viable carry. It's gonna be your secondary or third carry. Like, probably what is gonna happen is that you're not gonna have Kata 3. You're probably gonna have Kata 2, and she's not gonna have any items. And her items will actually go on Azir. That's something that happens. Or you could itemize all 3 because you don't need tank items in this comp. I told you, you don't want tank items. Right? Now, exhibit number 3. Here we are. For Juggernaut. With the spat. Now, for Juggernaut means that you're gonna probably run Darius. Or that you're gonna run something like this. Alright? Juggernaut Cat is fine. But apparently the Juggernaut emblem is way better on Swain or Sion. So, you know. It's up to you. You decide where you want to put your Juggernaut emblem. And yeah, Darius is gonna be your main tank, your main carry, sorry. I mean, he's also gonna be your main tank because like 4 Juggernaut gives you 25 to 35% damage reduction. What the fuck? Like, this guy is gonna be deleting units while taking 25% less damage. That is stupid. As you might have seen, his items are all damage because you don't need resistances. You don't need Titans. You don't need it. Like, you could have it for extra resistances. It's gonna be maybe a little bit overkill, but like, you know, you don't need it. You just don't. And it gets even dumber. It gets worse because you can cook Clad. You guess what you can put in? That's right, you can put in Shurima with the NOXUS emblem. Or an alternative, let me show you. You can put in this fucking guy. Where is it? With Juggernaut's spat. What do you want to cut here? I don't know. This is level 9. You just cut the bird, I guess. And you cut the NOXUS emblem on fucking Aatrox. I don't know. Or NOXUS. And NOXUS is a very good NOXUS emblem holder as well. Like, you just mix and match. You just mix and match. What else can you go for? Let's see. Maybe something with Slayers? Not sure, honestly. Slayers would be kind of hard to fit. But like any Slayer spat that you get at any point of the game, you can just do this. Because, like, it's +1, and it's always going to be active. Like, you know. Like, this comp really is really enabled by the knowledge the player has of its spot and what emblems are best on the board, right? It's very flexible with the emblems that you can get. and you can mix and match. You can like kind of play around with how your board looks, right, to get it to look just the way you want it. Okay, you can even just go Juggernaut and Slayer. Hold on, can't find it. Here we go. You can just go Juggernaut and Slayer. And no, we're lacking the NOXUS. What is going on? I mean, we just do this, honestly. We just go back to, who the fuck was that? Yeah, there we go. And you go NOXUS emblem, no, sorry, Juggernaut emblem on Scion. Or Nasus, you know? No, Nasus is already a Juggernaut, but you get what I mean. You can get it on Swain, you can get it on Scion, you know? Like, there's a lot of combinations, honestly. You can just pick and choose, like, you can just start trying to experiment with your board. Alright? Hi guys, Facts of the Future here. So apparently in the time while I've recorded this video and I'm editing this video right now, a new NOXUS variation came out, which apparently runs Echo and Warwick to complete the 8 pieces, and is allegedly doing better than some other variations. Like, it's better than an Shurima variation apparently right now, especially if you can get the Echo 3. You don't even need 3 items on him, you just need Echo 3. He's kind of a beast. And yeah, it's just a very solid board that runs a strong carry like Echo. It gives you Rogue, so it gives you backline access, and it's easier to close at level 8 because, like, you're not looking for Aatrox, for example. You just need a 3 cost and 2 cost. Warwick is a very good synergy for the comp because it gives your Darius Juggernaut, it gives your Samira a Challenger for what it's worth, you don't really care, but it also gives you Zon for Echo, so you can get a mod on Echo. Echo can use like pretty much every mod. Maybe Robotic Arm is kind of more useful on Warwick because he's gonna get more attacks in and he's gonna heal more often, but any other mod is probably gonna be better on Echo. And yeah, it's just very solid, and I wanted to share with you so that we have a kind of like more complete guide. And that's it. Go back to the original recording. So that was it for the NOXUS reroll comp guide. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, again, like, subscribe, leave a comment telling me if you have any suggestions on how I can improve my content. I am still learning after all. And if you want to see like anything else, and if you have any ideas, just let me know. I read all of your comments because like they're less than 5 usually. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great rest of the morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time it might be for you. And I hope to see you in the next video. Good luck on the climb.